to our Sunday show. I'm Rebecca Lowe. Alongside me today, Tim Howard and Robbie Mustoe. So Manchester City, the champions, go to Wolverhampton Wanderers today in our first game. And in the Sunday newspapers in England this morning, Pep Guardiola has talked about his future. Gentlemen, he's been asked about it week upon week. Yesterday he said this, just want to read you these quotes. "I love what I do. In terms of numbers of titles, it's already done, I would say a long time ago. But still, I like coming here in the morning to work. I love it. And this is the main reason I am a manager. When I don't feel this, and not just at Manchester City," he says, "I will not be a manager. I will not even train. That is for sure." Everybody is trying to read, Robbie, whether or not this guy is going to sign again or not. At the moment, after the Sunday papers, the narrative is, oh, he's hinting he's going to stay. But he still hasn't come out with anything definitive. What is your sense?
Oh, gosh, so difficult. Only he knows, if you've just said there, with some of that information. Cheeky Begirstein is the director of football that was with Pep at Barcelona, and Cheeky's just said that he's going to finish at the end of the season. That, for me, again, is another reason why he might leave at the end of the season.
Because Pep and him are very close.
Because very, very close. They worked very close over the last kind of 7 or 8 years or whatever it is with Pep. Now 9 years has it been at City. With terms of the players that he wants, that he can find him, it's been a brilliant combination. If that changes, that's another slight reason. We have the Premier League charges coming up as well. Now, whether that will get resolved by the end of the season, probably not, with appeals and stuff like that. That might be something that's in his mind as well. And how the season goes, how the team is, how the performance is, how the players, are they still reacting to him? Is he still doing brilliant things in the Premier League, which I think he probably will be? You know, if you were to ask me a question, just kind of knowing him for a long time now, I think this might be his last season. You know, and you can make an argument, if they don't win it, he might be like, you know what, I've done what I can do. I've won all 4 on the spin. I can't, you know, it's... I think that would be another reason for him to part ways at the end of the season. So if you to ask me now, I think this could be his last year.
What's your sense, Tim?
A lot of the same. I mean, the insight that you give is brilliant, right? Like, if they lose a title, does he just say, forget it? Or maybe... I'm going to go again. Yeah. I'm annoyed. How dare they take my title? I think that I think right now he knows. I do. But I also think he has plan A, B, and C, right? Like, what happens with the charges, the results of those. Do we win the Premier League or not? I would say that when you're making decisions at such an elite level, it comes down to legacy, right? And he obviously has a great legacy, but being at a club for 10 years, we know in any football club, but particularly in England, that means something more. 10 years is better than 9 years. And so oftentimes players, managers, they chase those little small milestones. So there's a lot. Again, with Cheeky leaving, that's a big deal because they are in lockstep. And does he want to work with somebody else? Can he work with somebody else the way he has with Cheeky? So it's a really interesting one.
Yeah.
Just to add on the director thing, Hugo Viana is strongly reported to be the next director of football, Sporting Lisbon. And then the coach, Amorim, of them has also been linked. So, you know, are you seeing a partnership, this partnership at City now, and then another future partnership where a director will want his coach that he's worked with before? So it could be like a pairing that might change.
Yeah, because Begirstein and Guardiola were together at Barcelona before they came to Manchester City. As you say, that could be another thing with Viana and with Ruben Amorim. I think the point, though, when we look at other big clubs and how they deal with succession is they have to know right now, don't they, Manchester City, who is going to come in, or at least have a 2 or 3, Tim?
I think so, and I think they do with some of the names. That this isn't going to be off the cuff with Manchester City. They don't do it that way. They'll know exactly who they want to have as their manager. I think the conversations have probably already been had, and it's just going to be a waiting game in terms of what Pep wants to do. But I do think they know, because it's too big. It's too big of a risk just to kind of throw it to the wind and see if someone wants to come. That's not how it's going to work.
I might be wrong. But if this is his last season, and if it is a new director and a new coach, that gives the other big clubs a big boost, Rebecca. You know, we talk about following Jurgen Klopp and other people, trying to follow what he's done at that. Imagine the next manager.
Is it the hardest job to succeed?
Gotta be, hasn't it?
Guardiola since Wenger?
Pep has been exceptional. Like, you could argue the best manager that English football has ever seen. To follow him with what he's won and the reaction from the players, we talk about it a lot, you know, of Liverpool right now, and it's going okay so far for Arne Slot. But can you imagine following him? And also, when he does go, the boost that it does give to your Arsenals, your Chelseas, to your Man Uniteds, to your Liverpools, that, wow, this genius that has a mentality which is incredible to keep winning and winning, is leaving English football. I think it's hard to follow him, and I think it's almost impossible to repeat the success that he's had.
Do you think, Tim, if he does go, it changes English football, as Robbie says, and blows everything wide open?
Well, it does. I absolutely believe it gives everybody else a boost. I've said that before. But the problem is that they have a brilliant squad. This is going to be very similar to...
Well, you know, there's a few older players at City. You know, your De Bruyne's and your Bernardo Silva's and a few others.
Yes.
That they've got to go again with a new director with his pick of players.
But they have the money to spend. They'll go get the right players. They've shown that they can recruit the right players. And under a new manager with a little bit of a twist, I mean, they're still going to be thereabouts. So.
You mentioned Liverpool. There are 3 examples. At Klopp, so far it's working. After Wenger didn't work with Emery, now it's working. And at Manchester United, arguably, it is still not working. So no matter what, it is a big job for whoever does, eventually, whenever that is, follows Pep Guardiola at Manchester City, and they play first up this morning. Kickoff is at 9 Eastern right here on USA. You don't have to change the network at all today. We will follow Wolves and Manchester City with the big one at Anfield. Slot against Maresca. Liverpool-Chelsea kicks off at 11:30 Eastern. But at Molineux, Gary O'Neill is all smiles this morning, which is encouraging after one win in their last 17 Premier League games dating back to last season. For Pep, the chance to go top of the Premier League is like any other day.